When he died, it belonged to Yitzchak. When he died, it went to Yaakov. When he died, it went to the Shvatim. Each one died, it went to their children. So Chafer owned a big part of Eretz Yisrael. So Tzlofcha ben Chafer should be entitled to Pishnayim, not only in the little things that he had in the suitcase trapped in the Nibba. He should be entitled to Pishnayim in the Chelik and Eretz Yisrael. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu made Kum Misalach Baratz Avar Kavarach B'Kiluchoy Tenena in the distant future, it's a prophecy that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give Eretz Yisrael. When Yeshua ben Nun will conquer the land, then the Jewish people will have it. But it was only a Haftacha now. It wasn't given over, the ownership wasn't yet given over to Avraham Avinu. Then the Gemara has a din, the Mishnah has a din, the Torah only gets Bishnayim, the Muchsar will have a Rawi. It only gets Bishnayim of the assets that the father owned at the moment of death. But if the father didn't own it yet, he bought a ticket for a sweepstakes. And then after the father died, then they make the drawing, and then the father won. But he didn't have those assets while he was alive. He didn't get it until after he died. Then the Torah doesn't get Mishnah. So the Gemara quotes one Tana who interprets that was the Shaila that the Yisrael had. When Avraham Avinu walked around the borders, did he acquire ownership right away? In which case, Karka Eretz Yisrael went Birusha to Yitzchak, to Yaakov, to the Shvatim, and the big piece of Karka belonged to Chafer. So Tzlofcha and Chafer should be entitled to a Pishnayim because it was Muchzah. But it was only a promise that's going to be fulfilled in the distant future. So then it's called Ra'oi, Enach Charnotel Baroikim, HaMuchzah doesn't get. So then what was the answer that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu? Noson titein lahem achazas nachalot b'soch achayamim. Why the cave for Loshen Noson titein? So that's what the Mefarshim HaChodesh say. This Tana holds Noson titein means they get a double portion. That's where they got this whole idea from. Otherwise it's strange. How did the Tana come up with such a strange idea? Because the Loshen of the Chumash is Noson titein means that the Bnei Tzlofcha were entitled to a double portion. So the Gemara raises a question. When the Bnei Tzlofcha came with the question, are they entitled to Pishnayim according to that time? So how did Moshe Rabbeinu not know what the answer is? He delivered in a rule before Yetzias Mitzrayim. It says, Nasati Osalechem Bo Rasha, Adi Hashem. What does the word Bo Rasha mean? Doesn't mean Yerusha. Doesn't mean Eretz Yisrael's Yerusha. From Avraham Avinu, everybody belonged to Avraham Avinu to Yitzchak to Yaakov. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu in doubt whether it's a Yerusha? Didn't he deliver that in the book? Didn't he know what he said, what he delivered in the book? The Gemara says no, he himself wasn't sure. Moshe Rabbeinu was different from the other prophets. Rashi in the beginning of Parshas Matos quotes from the Tanoim. Most of the comments that Rashi has on Chumash are either from the Tanoim or from the Medrash or from the Gemara. Once in a while Rashi talks about the Diktuk that's on his own, that he didn't get from the Gemara. That's what the Rishayim. But whenever Rashi has a comment with Tochen, with some substance, it's always from the Gemara or from the Midrash. So Rashi has a comment on the opening pasuk in Parshas Matos. Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem. So Rashi quotes from the Sifrei. Moshe Rabbeinu introduces his prophecies with Koyamar Hashem, and so too the other prophets introduce their prophecies saying Koyamar Hashem. But Moshe Rabbeinu is on a higher level of Nevuah that sometimes he introduces his prophecies by saying Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem. What exactly is the difference between Zeh hadavar and Koyamar Hashem? So the Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchever, and that pasuk in Parshas Matos explains that there's a basic difference between Nevuah and Torah. So Rachel used to say this very often. The Minchas Chinuch is bothered with a kasha. There's a very short list of people who do averas for which the punishment is misa b'dei shamayim. Very few, less than 15, maybe even less than that. So Tosefta. So the Minchas Chinuch is bothered with a kasha. One of the people who's chayim misa b'dei shamayim is one who's over al divrei navi. He violates the instructions that a navi gives. So Moshe Rabbeinu was a navi. Moshe Rabbeinu said you're not allowed to talk Lashon Hara. So you mean to say anyone who talks Lashon Hara is chayim misa b'dei shamayim. Moshe Rabbeinu said you have to recite Kriya Shema within the Zman Kriya Shema. The Schachter says that that's a din min Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu said you have to recite Kriya Shema b'shach b'cham b'kunecha. But normal people are waking up. So I mean, if a person is lazy and he sleeps late in bed and he doesn't bother, so he's chai misi b'dei shamayim. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu said, people violating the chai misi b'dei shamayim cannot be. It's a very short list. What you need is a short list. Everything that Moshe Rabbeinu said is chai misi b'dei shamayim. So different suggestions were given years ago that Ragat Shava has, others have suggestions. In the 1930s, Rav Soloveitchik was mefarsim this terrorist. But now it's more or less accepted what Rav Soloveitchik suggested. Oiva Divrei Navi means a Navi who tells a Hayru Ashor. Moshe Rabbeinu said no one should leave over the mon till the morning. So if someone's going to violate the din, leave over the mon till the morning. Moshe Rabbeinu said everyone should knock on the next door neighbor's doors. The Nochrim on Erev Pesach and ask for matanos. So if someone feels squeamish, someone feels uncomfortable, he doesn't want to knock on the door, he doesn't want to ask for matanos. You decide Misa B'Dei whatever Moshe Rabbeinu gave by Roshua, Misa B'Dei Shema. Whenever Moshe Rabbeinu said it in the Torah, so then we have rules and regulations. That's Torah, that's halacha, that's mitzvahs. So mitzvahs, you have a whole system. When you chai Misa, when you chai Malkus, when you chai Koros, when you chai Misa B'Dei Shema. That's not called Oiva Divrei Navi because Moshe Rabbeinu given on Navi. Oiva Divrei Navi means the chiyuv to observe it is B'Toras Nevuah. B'Toras Nevuah means Haru Ashur. So that's where Rabbi Levi Yitzchak ben the Tshuva writes. Zeh HaDavar Shetziv Hashem means this is direct dictation, word for word, letter for letter. The Rebbe Shalom only gave Moshe Rabbeinu direct dictation, word for word, letter for letter, and the dinim that are binding with the Torahs. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu about Makas Dam, Tzvadei Akinim, all the Makas and everything. He is predicting the future. That's not a din of Torahs, that's a nevuah. So by the nevuahs, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows the Navi a video, so to speak. He shows him a Mara HaNevuah, and the Navi, using his own language, has to interpret what was intended by the Mara HaNevuah. And the Gemara says if HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show the same nevuah to two different prophets, each one will say it in his own words. Ancient Nevi'im is not in and the two prophets say word for word exactly the same. Either one is a liar or they're both liars. They cannot be. They're two people, even identical twins. They don't think the same. They don't talk the same. They're not going to speak exactly the same thing. It cannot be. That's a fundamental difference. That's in Parshas Bahaloischa. When Miriam spoke Lashon Hara against her brothers, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished Miriam. He said, you don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu is Adon HaNavim. He's a higher level. He said, Nivyachem Elov, Nivyachem Hashem Amare Elov, Esvada Bachaloim Adav Boy, Lo Kein Avdi, Moshe Tel David Boy, Amare Elov Bechidus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Miriam at that time, the Rambam counts these as two of the 13 Yikori Amunah. One Yikori Amunah, we believe in the Nevuah. There is such a thing as the Nevuah prophecy. So many theologians, or so many thinkers, or so many people work with logic. They think that it's impossible to have Nevuah. How can the infinite God communicate with a finite human being? They don't believe that a Schachter should be tefillah. Man can talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I don't think it could be possible that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can speak to man. And we believe that there was Nevuah, there will be Nevuah. We have to be living in a period where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is punishing the Jewish people. The Gemara interprets the Psukim, Hashem, because at the end of the 70 years of Golus Bagel, so few Jews came back to Eretz Yisrael. Most of the Jews stayed behind. A very small number came back. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said he's not going to give Nevuah. He's angry at the Jewish people. Let them do the Averis and they'll go to Gehenna. When he loves us, he sends us Nevi'im, and he gives us Musar and Tochacha to be Machzor and Mutav. So we live in a period now where there's no Nevuah. But we believe in the principle of Nevuah. And together with Nevuah is Tefillah. We can communicate with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can communicate with men. Moshe Rabbeinu is Adon HaNavim. His Nevuah is different from that of the others. But Moshe Rabbeinu is given a Roshah, he was shown a Mara HaNevuah, Hachaloim, a vision, and had interpreted using his own language. And that's why it says, Koyam Hashem. This is approximately what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. But when Moshe Rabbeinu was given the din of the Doros, the Taryag Mitzvah that divided about all the future generations, then he said, Zeh HaDavar Shetziv Hashem. This is direct dictation, word for word, letter for letter. The Gemara sometimes learns that, very often learns that din for the fact that a word is spelled mole or choser. Na'ara, It's usually spelled Nun Ayin Reish. Once in a long while spelled Nun Ayin Reish. The Gemara learns out a din. Kedoshim, Kadosh, Tahor. Tahor is normally spelled Tes Hei Vav Reish. Once in a long while spelled Tes Hei Reish, and the Gemara learns out a din because it's spelled Chaser. Or Kedoshim Tihu is spelled without a Vav. Ki Kodesh Ani is spelled with a Vav. So the Tanoim have a comment. How come Kedoshim Tihu, it's the same pasuk. How come Kedoshim Tihu, Kodesh Ani, one is Moed, one is Chaser? Because we were told that the nevuahs that we give to Moshe Rabbeinu with the direct dictation, word for word, letter for letter. So that's where he introduces it by saying, Zeh HaDover, Asher Tziva Hashem, Koya Mar Hashem. This is approximately what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was giving a Hayrua Shah, he would introduce it by saying, Koya Mar Hashem. In today's Seder, you have Koya Mar Hashem. In next week also, you have a few times Koya Mar Hashem, because he's saying Hayrua Shah. He's not saying a din l'daris. When he says a din l'daris, then it says Zeh HaDover. Also, next week's Sedrus, Kedushas Levi points out, Kedushas Levi usually has Hasidus and Kabbalah, and it's hard to understand. But sometimes he has halacha, very straightforward, very easily understandable. Kedushas Levi points out in next week's Sedrus, it says, the Bnei Yisrael were instructed Moshe Rabbeinu to knock on the next door neighbor's doors and ask them about this. So it says, Bnei Yisrael also kidvar Moshe. They followed the instruction Moshe Rabbeinu said. Then they were instructed by Moshe Rabbeinu to bring a korban Pesach. It wasn't a regular korban Pesach. There was no mizbeach. So they put the dam on shte mezuzas v'lamashkev. There was no mizbeach to burn the emurim. So the Gemara discusses where did they burn, where did they burn, where did they burn. But basically, in principle, they were fulfilling a mitzvah that's like the Torah. So there the pasuk says, "V'yisalasu kasher tziva Hashem esmashi," because the word tziva has the connotation of mitzvah and haggis miyad of the Torah. That's the Rashi in the opening pasuk in Pasha Stop. Rashi quotes from the Tanaim, "Ein loshen tzava, loshen ziru is miyad of the Torah." So when they fulfilled the instructions to bring Korban Pesach, it says, "V'yisalasu kasher tziva Hashem esmashi." That was a mitzvah, but when they knocked on the next door neighbor's door, that wasn't a mitzvah, that was a part of work. That was a Hayrua Shah, so there it doesn't say Kasher Tzivah. There it says, Bnei Yisrael also, Kidvar Moshe. That would be an Oyra al Divei Navi. If they wouldn't want to knock on the next door neighbor's doors, they would be Chayim Nisim B'nei Shemayim. But if they wouldn't bring the Korban Pesach, it's a different din. It happens to be Korah, it's a different din, but it's not Nisim B'nei Shemayim, but Oyra al Divei Navi. Last week said we read the way appears to Moshe Rabbeinu in the burning bush, and every day the Medrash says it was going on for 7 days. Every day Moshe Rabbeinu gave another excuse why he doesn't want to be the shliach. He get Bnei Yisrael out. I don't deserve. They don't deserve. Paro is not going to. Bnei Yisrael not going to believe me. Every day another terrorist, and then the Medrash says he was punished. He was punished. Kodesh Baruch Hu tells him, Aaron Achicha Halevi, you were supposed to be the Kohen, your brother was going to be a Levi, but you give me such a hard time, so I'm going to take away Kuhuna from you. Your brother should have been a Levi, he's going to be the Kohen, you're not going to be the Kohen. He was punished. So what's in today's Sedra? After HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes him, so it says in today's Sedra, Moshe Rabbeinu again says, he doesn't want to go. V'yidav Hashem Moshe Leimar Shlishi. אני השם דבר פר מלך מצרים לזכור אשר אני דוי בלך ביום המשל לפני השם אני רעסבסה ואיך ישמע אלי פר. He's still doing it. He's already punished previously because he didn't want to listen. So the Meshech Chochmah explains that the pasuk, we have a din in the Gemara, a din in the Shulchan Aruch, when the Gabbai wants to give you an aliyah, so you're not allowed to refuse. You have to go right away. Gemara says there are some things that if a katzun yama v'shnosim shalotim, they take away your avichas yamin. But it's not so much say the Torah likas me'yakar. They call you up for an aliyah. And he doesn't want to take the aliyah. He's insulted. The Gabbai gave him chamishim. I remember once we were here in Eretz Yisrael for Simchas Torah, so we davened in the great synagogue on Leil Simchas Torah. So Dr. Lamb was davening there too. So there was some fellow who didn't like Dr. Lamb. So he was a wealthy balabas. So he told the Gabbai that she give me shlishi. And Dr. Len was very hurt. He's much older than me. So the chazan in the shul used to be from England. I forgot his name. So he says he remembers once in England there was a Shabbaton. All the Rabbanim were there. So they gave Rabbi Abramsky Revi. And he says, "What's for our bracha? Zot man af Revi?" He said, "Doesn't know what bracha he's saying. Never got Revi in his life." So it was such a good line. Dr. Lem left, and he got the aggravation out of himself. Yeah. So some people.
Where I come from, we give it to a dog. He says that's what we do here too.
Then you get to Yiddish folklore. Yeah. So the Gemara says you're not that. The Mishnah Berurah complains about the fact that people give the Gabbai trouble. Why give me this aliyah? It's not to cover it for me. I deserve something better. So if the Gabbai asks you to daven for a number, the Gemara says there are Herschel days. You should turn it down the first 2 times and only accept the 3rd time. But by aliyahs, you have to accept it right away. So why is there a difference between being the shliach tzibur and otherwise? The one who davens for a number is the shliach tzibur. So then there are Herschel dictates he should say, I'm not worthy to be the shliach tzibur. You get an aliyah, you're not the shliach tzibur. You're getting an aliyah. So that's what the Schachter explains over here. In Parsha Shmois, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking Moshe Rabbeinu to do a shlichus, go to Paro. He keeps on arguing for 7 days in a row. Every day comes up with another day. Here, the pasuk says, "Vaydaber Hashem Moshe v'Aaron v'yitzavim b'nei Yisrael Paro melchazam l'atzias b'nei Yisrael b'Eretz Mitzrayim." So Rashi interprets on the pasuk. Rashi quoting from the Tannaim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appointed Moshe Rabbeinu as the leader of the Jewish people, not just to do a shlichus. He's pointing him. He should be the representative, a position of sororah. So then the pasuk continues. The Russian base Habayis of Bnei Ruvain, Shimon, Levi. Why does it have all of a sudden the whole yichus of Bnei Yisrael? So Rashi says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to write the yichus of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he started from Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Once he got to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe and Aaron said he stopped. Why did he have to write the yichus of Moshe Rabbeinu? Why was that necessary? That's what the Meshech Chochmah says, because he was appointing him into a position of sororah. Position of sororah. Sometimes Malach HaMelech, Mikerav Achecha Toseh Malach HaMelech. You have to appoint one to a position of sororah. It has to be from a good yichus. So the Torah felt obligated to write the yichus of Moshe Rabbeinu. So it starts Reuven, Shimon, Levi till you get to Moshe Rabbeinu. So since HaKadosh Baruch Hu was appointing him to a position of sororah, the Derech Eretz dictates that he should say, I'm not worthy. He should refuse the first 2 times. And last week said, he wasn't being appointed to any position of sororah. He just asked to do a mitzvah. He should have run to do the mitzvah. But because here he was appointed to a position of sororah, that's why he says, it's not a good idea. He tried to turn it down. There is a Gemara. The Gemara has a comment when Moshe Rabbeinu appointed the Shivim Zekanim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "V'yisyatz v'sham imach." They should be with you. The Shivim Zekanim should be with you. The Gemara has a comment. Imach v'doim l'ach. The Shivim Zekanim should all be miyuchasim. How do you know that Moshe Rabbeinu has to be a miyuchas? The answer is from this parsha. From Parshas Va'era. The fact that the Chumash lists when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is appointing Moshe and Aaron. By Tzavim al Bnei Yisrael, at the time he and his brother were appointed as the Roshi HaKehillah, so the Torah has to write that they're miyuchasim. So that's how they more do. Imach b'nei v'loch, they have to be miyuchasim. The Psukim say that the original plan was that Bnei Yisrael are going to go for 3 days. So the Mepharshim HaChumash asked, why did they have to fool Paro? That they're only going to go for 3 days. You should have told them, let the Jewish people go free. Why did you only say we're going to worship Hashem for 3 days? So remember, the Yeshiva has a publication that they see Tzchok. The Talmidim write the Torah, and the Rabbeim write the Torah. Years ago, it used to be Heidenu. My father was a student in the Yeshiva. So I remember my father had an old copy of Heidenu that had a Torah from Rav Soloveitchik in it, so he saved that. The other was he didn't save. And in that Heidenu, they had a Torah from one of the professors in the college who taught Tanakh. His name was Professor Klutz. What's his name? Professor Klotz. So he said, and he wrote in his Vater something very interesting. The archaeologists found the chukim and mishpatim that they had in Egypt at that time. So the chuk was that one who was a slave is not entitled to worship any religion. The slaves are not allowed to be kafir to any religion at all. So if Moshe Rabbeinu asks that we want to worship the God of the Jewish people for travel for 3 days, by definition means that he's going to let us free. Like the Gemara says in Gittin, the Gemara has a statement, if a Jewish person owns an Aviknaini and he gives Aviknaini a pair of tefillin, it's clear and obvious that he's freeing the Aviknaini. Because the practice was that the Aviknaini may want to volunteer to observe other mitzvahs, Aseh Shazman Rama, like women usually volunteer others, but they would never, the practice was in the days of the Tanoim, they would never give a pair of tefillin to the Aviknaini. So if the Odom, the Odom gives him a pair of tefillin to wear, it's implicit that he's freeing him. So here, even if Moshe Rabbeinu is only asking for 3 days, but by definition that means that he's freeing them completely. The Psukim say a few times in the beginning of Shmos, the man revost most of the Eretz Mitzrayim Yidaitem Ki Ani Hashem. And it has a few times here also, the man Teda Ki Ani Hashem, Kamani B'chol Ha'aretz. So the Mefarshim point out the purpose of all of Nisim and influence of Yitzias Mitzrayim was in order to demonstrate that all of the 13 Yikorei Hamunah were emes. That's how the Ibn Ezra has on the opening pasuk in Aseres HaDibros. Anochi Hashem Alakecha She'atzicha B'Eretz Mitzrayim. So he quotes Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, posed the question, why does it say Anochi Hashem Alakecha She'barasi Shamayim Ba'aretz? Why such a restricted thing? She'atzicha B'Eretz Mitzrayim. So he quotes the question from Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. So the Ibn Ezra gives the answer. Bria Shamayim Ba'aretz wasn't witnessed by the Jewish people. There was nobody there. We weren't there. Yitzias Mitzrayim, they just lived through it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know that this is true. You all witnessed. Why do we know that? Why are we so convinced that our religion is a true religion? So the Rambam quotes from the Kuzari. Kuzari was Rabbi Yehuda Halevi was a talmid of the Rif. The Rif originally, Rabbi Yitzchak Al-Fazi lived in Fez. That's why it's called Al-Fazi. And at the age of 75, had to run away to Spain because they were accusing him of being buried in Malchus, which was ridiculous. And nothing better to do to be buried in Malchus. So he ran away to Spain. He started a new career at the age of 75, and he went strong to the age of 90. And all the famous students of the river from the second career after the age of 75. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is one of the students in Spain. So Rabbi Yehuda Halevi writes in the Kuzari, and the Rambam quotes this. The Umas HaOlam posed the question to the Jewish people, Shuvi HaShulam, Shuvi V'nechel Zabach. Why don't you join our religion? Why do you insist your religion is the authentic religion? So the Bnei Yisrael answer, Matechsev HaShulam is Kibbecholos HaMachanoim. We had several million people witnessing Machane, more Machane. We saw Hashras HaShechina, we saw Gilui Shechina. There were Shisha Libo men between the age of 20 and 60, probably Shisha Libo women also between the age of 20 and 60. More usually assumes men and women are Machzah 50-50. In addition to the Shisha Libo men, Shisha Libo women, there were people younger than 20, people older than 60. And then there was the Erev Rav, sounds like more. Erev Rav, several million people witnessed Gilui Shechina on the occasion. They witnessed all the Esa Makkos. They witnessed the Gilui Shechina on the occasion of Makkos B'choros and Kriyas Yamsuf and Maimon HaSinai. So the Jewish people respond, if you'll show me in your religion that you had several million people witnessing Oisins and Mosin, Nisim and Influence, I'll think about it. But they don't have it. And all the other religions, they claim, Oso Ish claims the story in their gospel, claimed they had a few disciples who were watching all the Nisim and Influence that he did, but they didn't have several million people. So that's what the Rambam quotes from the Kuzari. So that's what the Psukim and Chumash say. The whole purpose of all the Nisim and Influence, on Pesach night, there was a Chassidish Rebbe years ago, Herschel, he wrote the Bnei Yisoscha. His Rebbe told him that he's from Shevet Yisoscha. And he used to pronounce it. The question, what's the correct pronunciation? So his practice was to pronounce it Esau Schar. So he's known, he wrote a sefer for Esau Schar. And another sefer he has more halacha in it. So he says on Pesach night, when you tell over the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, you're supposed to bring out all of the Yikorei Hamudah. You're supposed to explain where do we see from all the Nisim and Flores all of the Yigimel Yikorei. You have to explain. The whole purpose of all the Nisim was Man Teidu Ki Ani Hashem, Yidaitim Ki Ani Hashem. The whole purpose of it. We mentioned before that the Rashi in the opening pasuk of Parashat Tzav quotes for the Tanoim inside the Loshen Zivus B'Yadam L'Doros. The word mitzvah is a technical term that has the connotation of a mitzvah, and the Heges L'Doros. If it's only Harosh Shoah, it wouldn't be called a mitzvah. So we have a pasuk in today's Seder. Vayasin came Moshe v'Aaron. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them they have to show both symbols. So they're going to show the Meifes that his hand turns into Saras, and then the Meifes that the Mata turns into a Nachash, turns back into a Mata. So it says, Vayasin came Moshe v'Aaron kasher tziva Hashem. This is a din l'deiros. What's the din l'deiros? That was Harosh Shoah, that he should saw this Meifes. So the answer is, it is a din l'deiros. That Meifes is not l'deiros. But there is a din l'deiros. Whenever a person comes and he claims that he's an Navi, you believe to listen to him only if he establishes himself as a Navi. He has to prove that he's a Navi. How can he prove? He has to show some mosim. Even though it could be that he's fooling the people, it could be he's pulling the wool over their eyes. So that's the halacha. If the Navi shows something that seems to be an osam Meifes, you believe to listen to him. The Rambam said just like he listened to two Eidim. The Eidim said that someone was maybe the Eidim are lying. The Rambam said that the pasuk says if two Eidim come, you believe them, you give them that penalty for that. Here also the din is if an individual comes and says that he's a Navi, and he demonstrates it by showing us some upside. To us it seems like an awesome Moses. Could be pulling the wool over our eyes. That's the din. That's the din that there is. The Navi has to demonstrate that he's a Navi, otherwise you don't have to listen to him. I remember once on Shabbos morning, we stayed in the dormitory, went downstairs to daven Shabbos in the base medrash. So there was a person, he wasn't a student in yeshiva, so I'm secretly Jewish, he was putting on tefillin on Shabbos morning. So all of us thought this guy's on shul, we're not going to talk to him. So David Lifshitz walked over to him, and he says, he speaks to him in Hebrew, because David didn't speak English, and the boy he saw, well, I didn't understand Yiddish. So he speaks in Hebrew, he says, today's Shabbos, he tells him today's Shabbos, we don't wear tefillin. So the boy says he got a nevuah, and he should wear tefillin today. So David Lifshitz asks him in Hebrew, what language was the nevuah? Was it English and Hebrew? So he says, it was in English. And he says, that's not a nevuah, nevuah is always in Hebrew. So the guy said, thank you, he took off his tefillin. And the pasuk, Vayachka Mikol Adam. So the pasuk, Medrash said, Afilu Ben Hashaytim. That's called a someone who knows how to deal with them. None of us want to go to the other guys in the shul have walked over. He said, no, who has to be in Hebrew then? Can't be. You have to know how to talk to them. The Medrash points out that the maximum punishment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ever gives is Yud Beis Chodesh. Mishpat Rishon, the Gehenna, maximum Mishpat is Yud Beis Chodesh. That's why the minhag is that after a parent passes away, so there's a possibility maybe they're burning in Gehenna for 12 months, so we don't say. So the Zohar says if the children recite Kaddish, if the descendants recite Kaddish, children and grandchildren recite Kaddish, that'll be part of the parents from Gehenna. But that the child is saying Kaddish, he shouldn't say for 12 months to indicate as if his parents deserve the maximum suffering in Gehenna. The minhag is you only say Kaddish for 11 months, unless it's someone other than the son saying Kaddish. Let's say the son is not saying Kaddish, have someone else say. So then he has no need of keeping it up, so then let him say Kaddish for 12 months. But if it's a child saying Kaddish, the minhag is you only say for 11 months. But that's the maximum punishment that a Russian levy gives. So the Medrash points out that the Esa Makas was spread out in such a way that from the beginning to the end it took 12 months. And the same thing Gemara says, the Dor Mabul took a whole year. The punishment of the Dor Mabul took a whole year. That was the maximum punishment that one gets. The Psukim say quite a few times that Anochi chichbadati as liboy, vayach beis leid para. Normally people have the chiyuv chavshus, and here HaKadosh Baruch Hu suspended the chiyuv chavshus of Paro. The derech hateva, if Moshe Rabbeinu, each time he pops him over the head, every time. So he would give in already. So the derech hateva, if it would be up to Paro himself, his chiyuv chavshus would be to stop already. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu suspended his chiyuv chavshus. That's what the Rambam calls. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes Zama. He does maniyas hatshuva. He doesn't allow you to exercise your chiyuv chavshus to do tshuva. That was the punishment that Paro had. We usually have chiyuv chavshus, but then the Gemara has Megabel and Schusal and Ezaka v'Chayim Chayim. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants someone to do some dirty work for him. So usually in Hashemayim, they'll pick a person who's enemy of Russia, let him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will suspend his chiyuv chavshus, let him do the dirty work for the Beis Shalom. Sometimes the Galvan schools are Zakai. They want something wonderful to happen. And they're no one's going to volunteer it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu may suspend someone's chiyuv chavshus that he should intervene and do this shlichus that the Shamayim. He wants someone to do. So that's over here. This was an example of withholding chiyuv chavshus from the person. We don't always have chiyuv chavshus all the time. I mentioned before. I mentioned before the Bnei Yissaschar has a few different svarim. One of the svarim is quoted by the Mishnah Berurah. It has one sefer called Derech Pikudecha. It's a little bit like a sefer on mitzvahs. It only goes to the middle of Mishpatim, 50 some odd mitzvahs. They're not sure whether he never wrote the rest of the sefer or the rest of the manuscript was lost. But they have till the middle of Mishpatim. He had. My father had in his library. He had a copy of the Derech Pikudecha that was printed by the Vad Hatzollah. And all the yeshiva boys were in Shanghai. And they used to print svarts. Apparently a lot of them were Chassidim. They used to print Chassidish, Choshen, and Gemaras, and printed the Chassidish svarts. So my father had a Derech Pikudecha that was printed in Shanghai by the Vad Hatzollah. So the Bnei Yissaschar has there, he talks about a mitzvah of Avodah Zarah. So the Navi will often refer to it Gilul Lechem. Gilul Lechem, Golem, this Tzol. Why do you call it Avodah Zarah? It's a disgusting thing, so we call it Golem. Here the pasuk says in the end of Va'era, Moshe Rabbeinu tells Paro, Ani Kitzesi Esoir, when I leave the city, Ephesus Kapay al Hashem, he'll lift his hands and pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Borah will end. Why can't he daven in Paris Palace? Why does he have to leave the city? So Rashi quotes from the Medrash that the city was all full of Avodas Gilulim, and you're not allowed to daven when there's Golem, when there's Tzoah. You're not allowed to daven. So you're not allowed to daven when there's a Dovish Allah, when there's Zohar there. So this is interesting. What's the comparison? Because Avodah Zarah is such a disgusting thing, so that's what we compare it to Golem. So there's an interesting idea that appears in the Darkei Tshuva, the Mikkacha, as a say on your get, you're a dead. He quotes a likud of all of the Achron. The Mikkacha had a yeshiva, and they had older boys who knew how to learn. So he divided up the job. So he gave each one an assignment. These boys, he told them, you look all Achronim on the first two sifim. Next one look all Achronim on the next two sifim. And they wrote a likud, they wrote up all the Achronim, and then he was the overall editor. So that's why a lot of times you have in the Darkei Tshuva and Yeridei, you have the same idea mentioned 5 times, because 5 different groups were working on different sifim. So they'll quote the same thing 5 times, and they'll tell you. And Sifkat Yud Gimel, tell you, look in Sifkat Lamed Hey, look in Sifkat Kuf Yud Gimel, look in Sifkat Reish Hey. He has the same idea written 5 times, because each group wrote the same thing. So he has a shaila on Siman Yutes and Yeridei. They talk about the Vichas Hashchita. The Schachter has to recite a bracha before he shechts the behemoth or the chicken. So how can he recite the bracha? The slaughterhouse has an awful smell. It's full of blood. So you have a reach ra, you're allowed to say bracha and reach ra. So he says it depends what kind of reach ra. If you have food that rotted and spoiled, or you have vomit, or you have tzoa and it has a bad smell. So it's not enough just to be marchik dalaram. You have to be marchik for the reach ra also. But he says the blood in the Beis HaShchita, in the slaughterhouse, that's a natural smell. It's awful. Let's say a person works in a lab, a chemistry lab, and there are certain chemicals that have an awful smell. That's not something rotted and spoiled. That's a natural smell that has this. That's not, there's no din that you're not allowed to say because that's a dead smell. I remember when I was a student in the college, I had Professor Shmuel Soloveitchik for chemistry. It was on science majors. So he told us that when they were students in university, they couldn't afford, when they would go to a concert or something, so they couldn't afford to pay for the most expensive seats. So they had a shtick. So at the end of the day, they would smear their hands with a chemical that smelled awful. They would buy the cheapest tickets in the hall, and they would sit in the back. And then the people would move away. The next 5 rows would move 5 rows forward. The next 5 rows move away. Then by the end of the night, they were sitting all the way at the front. So that's great. I'm telling you, that was the shtick that they did. So if you have a bad smell, a reach ra from the chemical, that's the natural smell. That's not a problem saying it, bro. If something rotted away, that's tzoa. That's gidlu lechem. So then, if you have ki, if you have vomit, kitzoya, it says. So Avodah Zarah is also b'hana. Originally, let's say there was a tree, and then I make it into a totem pole, and people deify the tree. So the tree becomes also b'hana. So that's like something was healthy, and it just rotted away. But you were making it into, you were deifying it. You make it also b'hana. So that's what he says a chiddush. You're not allowed to daven. But there's an Avodah Zarah there because it's like tzoya, like heat. You're not allowed to daven. I was born in a Catholic hospital, Mercy Hospital. So because my father was the rabbi, so they were nice enough to take out, every room had a crucifix. Right. So they were nice enough to take out the crucifix when the rabbi's wife came to have a baby. But my mother said the crucifix was there for so many years, when you took it away, the whole wall was dust. Except for the white part where the crucifix was, and the crucifix was there. They don't really worship the crucifix. It represents Yoshkin. They worship Yoshkin. They don't worship the crucifix. That's an interesting thing. It says here, so he said that's halacha. You're not allowed to down because it's dina kigol. Not Stama Malitza that the Nevi'im had. Gidul lechem. Gidul lechem is a din, has a din of gold. Shabbat says, "Vayifras kappa v'lashem." He davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the quote from the Vilna Gaon that when the Kohanim duchen, they do prisas kapayim. I noticed here in Eretz they duchen every day. So some of the people are duchening are not so makbid. The din is when you're duchen, you're supposed to have the siyas kapayim. You have to pick your hands up. So some recommend they should pick up their hands higher than their head. They're saying that maybe is a chumrah, but Me'ikrat din has to be at least shoulder height. A lot of people hold their hands down like this, below the shoulder. A lot of people hold them like this, but then they shuckle back and forth. So when they're shuckling forward, then the hands are below the shoulder. They should stop shuckling, or they should hold their hands in such a way that the hands are always above the shoulder height. Otherwise, they didn't do the siyas kapayim. So they quote from the Vilna Gaon, commenting on the pasuk in the beginning of the Vuas Yishai, Chazon Yishayahu ben Amoitz. So it says, "Uva farischem kapechem." When you raise your hands, Alamein Amikem, I will ignore what you're saying. Videchem damim aleh, because the Jewish people were killing, they were murderers, so the Moshe was not going to listen. So they quote from the Vilna Gaon, there are two kinds of parischem kapechem. When the Kohanim duchen, they do prisas kapayim like this, to indicate as if they're giving a bracha. And when we used to daven, with prisas kapayim, it says Shalom Hamel daven, Moshe Me'elana. They would daven like this, with hands like this. Why like this and like this? So the Vilna Gaon said, because he quoted the opening Mishnah Masechah Shabbos, Mishnah talks about an ani standing on Shabbos with his hands out like this. He's next to the balabas for a matana, for food, for money, for whatever. And the balabas is giving him something. So the Mishnah talks about Mitzvah Nasa. So the ani who's asking, he wants to receive something, holds like this. In order to receive, the usher has to hold his hand like this. So when the Kohanim Aducha are giving a bracha, so they all hands like this. And when the Israelim are davening, the priests Kapayim, they all hands like this. They want to receive the bracha. How come when the Chachamim introduced the forms of davening, we keep our feet together, we have Bamida, how come they didn't do the priests Kapayim? That's at the Tanakh, you see like that. So Rabbi Keveger on Shulchan Aruch quotes from the early Achronim that since that was adopted by the Christians, that's why they decided to discontinue it. The days of Tanakh, it was very common. They would adopt the priest's kapayim like this. But once it became a minhag l'avodah zarah, so the Chachamim stopped it. These are some of the ideas that appear in today's Seder. I wish everybody good health. Everyone should have a tzlach and should all have nachas, great children, and many years to come.
We're davening Ma'ariv right after a few announcements. We had the tremendous of taking Rav Herschel Schachter as Yeshiva to a program that we have here in Yerushalayim. It's called the Zula. I'm sure the Rav remembers. Rav came we finished an interview on the radio at 2 o'clock in the morning, Motzei Shabbos. The Rav looks at me, what should we do now? I said, well, if the Rav wants to come, we can go see what we're doing with the teens at risk. And he came and he was there till 4 o'clock in the morning with the Rebbetzin and sitting and talking to the kids and talking to the advisors and see what we're doing there. And the Rav gives us tremendous chizuk because the work there is tremendously hard. So Be'ezer Hashem on Erev Tu B'Shvat, which is February 5th, in Yanam, we're going to be having a luncheon in the Yekiv in Psagot, the Psagot Winery, which is stunning. If you haven't been there, stunning. We're having a beautiful luncheon over there for 22 years for the Zula. It's a fundraiser for the Zula. I look forward to seeing you all there. The details on the back page of the Torah Tidbits. We're going to be davening Ma'ariv now. Please follow Torah Tidbits for more programs.